2024. Unprecedented breach of security in Washington. Top Trump officials caught by journalists for sharing war plans for strikes in Yemen via unclassified signal messaging app. Russia and US put their heads together over the Ukraine crisis after 12 hours of intense negotiations in Saudi Arabia. Specifics of discussions remain under wraps for now. All eyes on the joint statement likely to be issued by the two parties. Bangladesh continues to face crisis as poverty and food insecurity surge in the last 1 year, possibly under Mohammad Yunus's tenure. Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies report reveals poverty has nearly doubled in the last 2 years. Urban areas like Dhaka are being hit the hardest. And Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayke's office announces Prime Minister Modi will be the first foreign head of government to visit the island nation under the new administration. Prime Minister Modi set to be in Sri Lanka from the 4th till the 6th of April. Our big story this Tuesday evening on India Global is what may be a very worrying trend for aspiring Indian students. The F1 visa denials that the US comes out with has in fact surged to a decade high, with 41% of applicants rejected in the last 1 year, that is 2023 to 2024, the last fiscal year for which data is available. On your screens are those numbers that tell the rising trend. In fact, this marks a steep rise from last year and threatens to possibly reshape the educational landscape for thousands of hopefuls. In total, about 2.7 lakh students had their dreams dashed as US authorities turned down, as I said, over 40% of the 6.7 lakh F1 visa applicants. For many Indian youth students, the US has long been a beacon of academic opportunity, with India now making up the largest group of international students. But this surge in rejections, alongside a drastic 38% drop in student visa issuances, has cast a long shadow over those aiming to study at American universities. As other countries, including Canada, tighten their borders, India's brightest minds are facing an increasingly uncertain future when it comes to the global education race. As the US government fails to provide clarity on specific rejection patterns, students and families are left in the dark about their chances, forcing many to reconsider their plans or even give up their dreams altogether, which is why we are discussing this in greater detail. Joining me today are two experts to talk more about what this means for Indian students and how significant is this crisis, because remember, this is pre-Trump era. Is the Trump era going to be worse? Is something that I'm going to put forth to the panelists joining me. Naveen Chopra, founder chairman of the Chopra's Group, and Mr. Sudhanshu Kaushik, executive director of the North American Association of Indian Students. Sudhanshu, good to have you on the show. And likewise, Mr. Chopra as well. In fact, Sudhanshu, let me start with you, which is that some of these numbers are in fact the pre-Trump era, aren't they? Where all the uncertainties that are there of the Trump administration weren't there, but still the numbers indicate a drastic fall in terms of the way in which foreign students are being perceived.
Absolutely. This has less to do with politics for the first time in about 6-7 months, and more to do with the methodology, takes out and crunches this number, but also the supply and demand. The fact is that U.S. colleges in the United States have expanded their reach. They've also invested a lot in outreach across the world, and the metrics in which they use to judge acceptance and denial has also changed. Just in the past 3-4 years post-COVID, standardized tests would be a non-negotiable. Now that rate of how many required standardized tests colleges take has decreased substantially, and has made education in the United States more accessible and equitable. But at the same time, what's happened is that while you're going out, reaching, people are applying, the fact is that there are unqualified people in certain cases, or not the
Yes,
most qualified people that are attending it. So I think it has less to do with politics and the current administration and the
yes.
back and forth that's happening, and more just how education is changing.
Indeed. And let me put that too, Mr. Chopra. Your company has been advising students about going overseas for a really long time. So what's the message right now that you would give to all those students evaluating American universities as an option?
Seriously, I would say that if you don't want your visas to be rejected, don't go down the route of fraudulent documents, forged bank statements, and so on and so forth. As you rightly said, we've been in this line of work for the last 30 years, since 1995. And largely throughout the years, even though we have absolutely nothing to do with the US embassy, or no interfacing with the US embassy, it's just the way we've been processing students, and this is well known, our visa rejection rate is almost zero. Why? Because we do not touch a student who comes or asks questions or behaves in a fashion where we know that there's some forging of documents going to be there, or there's some clandestine under the table
Okay.
stuff going on. But if I may, just conclude by telling you that while you're quoting a rejection rate of 41%, I looked at our rejection rate in this period. It's 8%.
Okay. Okay, so that of course is about specific when it comes to students who may of course not have their papers in place. But Sudhanshu, is that all there is to it, or do you think there's more? Because a lot of what the data looks like is it's more than just weeding out those applicants who are not really students or who are forging papers. It's more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it. Mr. Chopra is right. The fact that when they're expanding education and access to education, especially from the home state that I come from, Haryana, there are people that are trying to get access to a visa to be able to just go to the United States without the intention of studying ever at all. Now, so yes, it's a large factor due to weeding out qualified versus unqualified, but it's also just a trend, Guri. I mean, look, higher education at the end of the day is just a business. It's part of a larger capitalistic kind of society, and there are trends in which people are choosing to pursue higher education or to stay at home and be able to invest in their business. People are choosing between.
Okay.
Invest in a 2-year degree or getting married. So these are personal
Okay.
choices, because the outcome of kind of financial viability with an education and without an education at a U.S. higher education has gone back and forth. I still
Okay.
think that we're going to have numbers, and I still think that we will still make up, Indians will make up 30% and much larger of the rate of Indian students studying in the United States
Right.
overall.
Indeed. Mr. Chopra, then, as I said, some of these numbers, these are numbers that actually before Trump 2.0 came in. Is there a growing sense of anxiety that you see amongst students, amongst parents, as to how this trend may probably worsen when it comes to visa rejections? And what's your message to them who may be anxious about it?
Well, there is definitely a certain anxiety with President Trump's second term, because even in the first term, he's a very unconventional president. He's an overtly out and out nationalist, and he's functioning from a disruptive space. He's disrupting the settled bureaucracy and the settled stuff that has been in the United States and all other countries. But my message to the parents of students is that if you're a genuine student, and you are serious about your education, you are going to go and enroll at a university, don't fear, just move ahead, just be careful and make sure that you are well prepared for the journey ahead. Make sure that the documentation and the facts that you present are accurate, and don't sort of take shortcuts. So, for example, in the case of English language, prepare and take the language tests. Sudhanshu mentioned the test, the mandatory tests that used to be SATs, GRE, GMAT. Now, a lot of universities dropped these during the COVID period. A lot of them are bringing them back. Our advice to students always has been that rather than take the easy way out, take the hard way out, prepare,
Okay.
do the tests, because the tests have a value. You present it, the value, it shows you're a serious student, and if your scores are high, you're going to be in line for scholarships and good news.
Indeed. Indeed. Okay, so quick answers from both of you because I'm running out of time. Sudhanshu, which is that as representing the students, representing Indian students on American campuses, talk to us about what's the mood like on the campus. Have things changed with the new administration coming in? Because there are fears on multiple counts, right? So talk to us about what's the mood like on campuses.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's going to be diverse where you go. There are over 3 lakh Indian students studying at any given time. That's about 300,000. The reality is that yes, the mood has dampened because of job prospects, because there's an additional scrutiny when it comes to visas, and will the visa then transform into an H-1B, and then will you get a lottery, and then there's just all this uncertainty. That being said, I don't see people that have said, oh, I'm not going to go to the United States to study because Trump is the president. It just does not exist, right? There is still very much that enthusiasm, excitement to be able to get and access higher education in the United States. So I don't think that's something that is a fear. I think job opportunities and settling down and seeing a foreseeable future in the United States is somewhat that's...
Okay, Mr. Chopra, very quickly, are there any other countries that are now being preferred by students and parents, besides the US?
Oh, good God, yes. I mean, Europe has suddenly come alive. Lots of interest in Germany. Lots of people going to Germany, the Netherlands. People are going to Italy, to France. I mean, we have ended up organically, counseling and processing students for 40 countries. So every time a door shuts, Indian students have always been very innovative. Indians by nature have been very innovative throughout history. And I'll tell you something, that the market dynamic and the demand-supply gap has driven this phenomena, will continue to drive the phenomena. When a country closes down, suddenly the industry there, after 2 years, they'll start screaming. They don't have people, because the local, essentially Anglo-Saxon population to which Trump addresses himself, and from which constituency Trump comes from, a large part of the Anglo-Saxon constituency has become so comfortable with their comfortable lifestyles. They don't want to go and enroll in universities for the hard courses. The hard courses being mathematics, physics, sciences, STEM. So who is filling that gap? It's the Indians and the Chinese.
Indian students filling that gap, absolutely.
Who are investing in themselves, and in the process of investing in themselves, they are being picked up by the companies. I mean, NASA would not collapse, but would suffer heavily if all the Indians walked out.
All right, that's a great note to end this conversation. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to me on a trend that's worrying, but hopefully Indian students will be able to tide this rough patch going forward. On that note, a quick break. We come back on the other side with lots more. Stay with us.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people.
In terms of the strategic relationship and the intelligence arrangements between India and the United States, to what extent is it premised on perhaps an expansionist or an expanding China and the Asia-Pacific region?
You know, the ties between our two countries, the United States and India, go very, very far back. And so what we're continuing to see is a strengthening of that partnership and recognizing that the mutual interests of both of our countries are centered around peace, prosperity, freedom, and security. So now as we see a new administration coming in with President Trump's leadership in the United States, of course, Prime Minister Modi's long-standing leadership here in India, we have two leaders of our two great countries who are very good friends. and who are very focused on how we can strengthen those shared objectives and those shared interests.
The other big international talking point is obviously the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and we're all optimistic, and I've covered the war 3 times. Be that as it may, if President Putin doesn't come on the table with the peace agreement which has been proposed by the United States, can Washington indefinitely keep arming Ukraine and, in a sense, allowing them to continue their fight?
President Trump is seeing this ongoing conflict with very clear eyes. And he has made his position and his priority very clear, which is to bring about an end to this war. So he is focused on peace. The negotiations have just begun. He's looking forward to success in those negotiations, not for himself, but for the cause of peace and to stop the killing of innocent and taking of innocent lives there. So he has the best negotiators working with both the Ukrainians and with Russia and with Putin. And we look forward to seeing the continued progress that we've already seen over a very short period of time. I think it's important to point out that under the previous administration, during which this war began, there was no effort at all towards peace.
In a chilling move that reeks of authoritarianism, Pakistan continues its iron grip on Balochistan by arresting prominent Baloch leaders. On Monday, the Baloch committee saw the detention of its central leader, Samideen, and deputy organizer as police launched a brutal crackdown on protesters in Karachi. Despite the heavy-handed repression, BYC issued a fiery statement vowing not to be silenced by the government's cruel actions. The arrests have been met with scathing criticism from the Baloch human rights group, labeling them as acts of state terrorism and calling out Pakistan's fascist regime for silencing peaceful dissent. And in an official statement, BYC denounced Pakistan's barbaric tactics, accusing the government of running a militarized oppression machine bent on crushing all opposition. The arrests, framed as abduction-style operations, are seen as part of a long-standing genocidal policy aimed at erasing the Baloch identity through enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings and systemic repression. BYC's condemnation echoed beyond borders, calling for international human rights organizations to hold Pakistan accountable for its growing list of atrocities. The treatment of activists like Mehrang Baloch, who was also detained while protesting in Quetta over the weekend, underscores the state's unrelenting crackdown on Baloch resistance. To talk more about this, let me now get in Mehran Mari, who's joining me from London, and also Dr. Hamid Khan to talk more about what can be done when it comes to this particular issue. Why is it that the Pakistani state is cracking down the way it is, and where is the Baloch movement right now at this particular juncture? Mr. Mari, let me start with you. 11th March was essentially the inflection point, so to say, with that train hijacking and the way in which the entire Baloch movement and the Baloch issue has really come to the fore. First of all, let me start by asking you about your reaction to Mehran Baloch's arrest, the fact that she is not being allowed to meet her lawyer. How do you see that and the crackdown by the Pakistani state?
It has been common practice in the past by the fascist Pakistani military. Whenever there's a Bhutto like Zulfikar Ali Bhutto or Zardari Bhutto, which is a Zardari manufactured fake Bhutto, in power, then the real strength and the iron fist of the Punjabi military comes down upon the Baloch people. It has been proven in the 70s and it is being proved now. So you can see in Quetta and in Karachi, they're both Bhutto playgrounds politically. Therefore, the Punjabi military, the fascist military, is cracking down very strongly against the Baloch. With Mehrang Baloch's case, being nominated from the Times 100 women, BBC 100 women, nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize.
To now facing terror charges. To now facing terror charges.
She's been not facing terror charges yet. She's facing 3 murder charges. The 3 murders of young men who have taken place by the Pakistani military in Quetta is being pinned on her. I was just in an interview before you. There's a Dr. Irshad. He said, you know what? The reason we have detained her, that's for questioning. We want to question her why she was supporting the Baloch fighters and she was not talking against them. We have educated Maharaj, we have given her a platform, and she's a privileged person in Pakistan. We educated her, and now she's talking against her country, Pakistan. These guys are really unaware of reality. They're so detached from the real situation on the ground.
Okay.
They live in cuckoo land.
Okay, they live in cuckoo land, but the fact that there are now protests that are engulfing Karachi, and the fact that the Baloch movement has now been mainstreamed in a manner that wasn't there till now, Dr. Hamid Khan, how do you see that impacting Pakistan and its security calculus?
Yes, Gauri. I mean, I have seen for the last few days, yes, it has been highlighted, sadly, by the supporting of Indian media and who supported the terrorism in Pakistan.
No, I'm not supporting anything. I'm just pointing out what is there. I'm not supporting anything.
Yes, I would like to say something.
No, you can say all that you want to, sir.
Yes,
but I'm
yeah,
just
thank you.
correcting the fact that nobody here is supporting what is happening. We are reflecting the facts. Go ahead, take your point.
If you would, please kindly, if you have asked someone to give his opinion, let me hear out, please. Okay. Okay. One thing is very clear that if Marang Baloch or any of her allies did not have ethical courage to even condemn the terrorism, right? And then they expect that the law will not take the due course. It is not going to accept it by a lawful regime. And secondly, I mean, few dozen people who are already sponsored and funded by RAW and other foreign elements, if they want to carry on some kind of protest against the will of the 97% of Balochis, the government is not going to allow them to carry on such kind of acts against the state and against the Pakistan's existence. Third thing is that Marang Baloch or anybody who thinks that by supporting terrorism, by killing the innocent labor persons, by just looking at their ID cards if they are Punjabis, and then on the other hand, the foreign element, raw supported element,
Dr. Hamid Khan, I am giving you all the time to speak. You are speaking freely. Nobody's interrupting you. But that doesn't give you the license to go ahead and cook up stories and use my platform to further that. Sorry. As I said, you have all the freedom to express your views, but not the freedom to use this platform to talk about cooked up stories. My question is very simple. Simple question, simple answer. Which is Karachi is engulfing in protests.
Yes.
How do you see Pakistani state handling it?
Pakistani state is handling it fully lawfully, and the way the terrorists should have been handled. The only reason is that Pakistan state believes and have all the evidences of Indian involvement in shape of Kulbhushan Yadav and in shape of many dossiers, which we have provided
Dr. Khan,
in the United
the problem is I am according you all the respect and privilege that I do to every guest on the panel. You don't seem to be worthy of it. That's what it looks like. I'm going to give Mr. Mari the chance to counter this before we wrap things up.
I would like to say that
I'm going to give Mr. Mari, who's been patiently waiting. As I said, make your point. No cooking up of stories on this platform.
No, I'm giving you the evidence. I'm letting you know the reality.
Mr. Mari, please.
Yes, you do realize it's so difficult to have a debate or conversation with a Pakistani establishment spokesperson, because they have to read out from the card what's written over there, and they won't listen to anything else. Now, the thing is, I mean, they keep on saying raw,
if he's accusing me and you're not stopping him, does it make sense?
Please, sir, give me an opportunity to speak. This is a Guardian article of yesterday. And this are probably in response to what 3 days ago ISPR and the military intelligence was circulating a document. They've given up on RAW now. Now they say the MI6 and MI5 is running a campaign against Pakistan in support of Balochistan and PTI and PTM. So they are really dreaming up a lot of things. I do realize they're guilty. So the guilty mind is cooking a lot of stories. Therefore, this Guardian article of yesterday really explicitly explains what's happening in Balochistan. There is a war, there is a fight, yes, of independence, but there is an illegal occupation, and there is atrocities committed by the fascist military of Pakistan in Balochistan. The Guardian's saying it. I am not saying it. It's the doing of the Pakistani military in reaction. All this is happening. Coming to Maran Baloch.
Can I
Maran Baloch
reply
is a
now?
peaceful activist working within the parameters of the so-called democratic Pakistan, which is not. It's a military state. But she's working within your fake constitution of 73, according to that. Sunni Baloch was dragged from her hair, put in trucks in Karachi, and they're disrespected. They have disregard for any human rights.
Yes.
So we believe the international human rights organizations will come down heavy-handed on Pakistan and its fascist military regime this time.
Indeed. Everybody is asking for the release of Maran Baloch. But of course, Dr. Hamid Khan here, speaking for the Pakistani deep state and
He's in denial.
establishment, cooking
No.
up stories without giving a valid reason for Maran Baloch's arrest. And the fact that the Balochi people and their movement needs to be addressed beyond just crackdown. I'm going to slip into a break, come back on the other side, talk more about the latest as far as what happened when Donald Trump's regime administration, in fact, inducted a journalist in war plans. Stay with me. I'm going to come back to that story after this break.
What's wrong with the car?
It's okay, lads. I'm with the AA. Bombay mix.
Because the AA has more expert patrols across the country, you'll be back on the road in no time. No wonder more people choose the AA. Join today.
Who doesn't love a good deal? Meal deals. Be rude not to deals. Seal deals? Or a bit of deal or no deal? We've got free-to-play deals with no deposit required. And up to £1,000 to be won every day. Get that good deal feeling only at Tombola.
In terms of the strategic relationship and the intelligence arrangements between India and the United States, to what extent is it premised on perhaps an expansionist or an expanding China and the Asia-Pacific region?
You know, the ties between our two countries, the United States and India, go very, very far back. And so what we're continuing to see is a strengthening of that partnership and recognizing that the mutual interests of both of our countries are centered around peace, prosperity, freedom, and security. So now as we see a new administration coming in with President Trump's leadership in the United States, of course, Prime Minister Modi's long-standing leadership here in India, we have two leaders of our two great countries who are very good friends and who are very focused on how we can strengthen those shared objectives and those shared interests.
The other big international talking point is obviously the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and we're all optimistic, and I've covered the war 3 times. Be that as it may, if President Putin doesn't come on the table with the peace agreement which has been proposed by the United States, can Washington indefinitely keep arming Ukraine and, in a sense, allowing them to continue their fight?
President Trump is seeing this ongoing conflict with very clear eyes. And he has made his position and his priority very clear, which is to bring about an end to this war. So he is focused on peace. The negotiations have just begun. He's looking forward to success in those negotiations, not for himself, but for the cause of peace and to stop the killing of innocent and taking of innocent lives there. So he has the best negotiators working with both the Ukrainians and with Russia and with Putin. And we look forward to seeing the continued progress that we've already seen over a very short period of time. I think it's important to point out that under the previous administration, during which this war began, there was no effort at all towards peace.
In an unprecedented breach of security, top officials in President Trump's cabinet, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Vice President J.D. Vance, were caught texting war plans for upcoming strikes in Yemen via an unclassified app, no less. The sensitive details reportedly shared in a Signal group chat reached the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, setting off alarm bells over operational security. While Trump initially dismissed the matter, the fallout has been swift, with lawmakers across the political spectrum now demanding answers, with critics calling it a catastrophic failure in judgment. The White House now faces a potential storm over how such high-level information was actually mishandled. What went wrong? How big is the scale at which this mismanagement took place? This report has all the answers for you.
American military families who are seeing Elon Musk.
Some of the most powerful people on the planet have been stunned by a military intel breach. It has sent shockwaves across Washington and the rest of the world. Senior Trump officials set up a group chat to discuss top secret Yemen war plans, but they accidentally looped in a journalist, The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg. The chat, named How the PC Small Group, was set up on the Signal messaging app on 13th of March. A day after the journalist was added, the group shared information about plans for a military operation against the Houthis in Yemen. US Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz seemingly appeared on the group. Trump was reportedly not a part of this chat group. Goldberg initially doubted the group text was real, but his doubts were cleared when Yemen was actually bombed, reportedly killing dozens. There were allegations that coordinating a national security-related action over Signal app may have violated several provisions of the Espionage Act. And the journalist has said that some of the information, had it been leaked, could have caused harm to American personnel. The Trump administration says the matter is under investigation, but Hegseth has attacked the journalist for writing about the leak.
So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops.
Also reserved some harsh words about The Atlantic.
I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business.
The breach has sparked widespread outrage from the Democrats, who have labeled the leaders as complete amateurs. The Damocles sword, however, is hanging over Mike Waltz, who apparently added the journalist to the group, with some reports suggesting his days in the Trump administration may be numbered. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report for NDTV World.
All right, let's get in John Bolton, former Assistant to President for National Security Affairs. Just the right person to talk more about what happened, what went wrong, and more importantly, the message it sends in terms of the preparedness of American security establishment. Ambassador Bolton, thank you so much for speaking to me on India Global. Let me start by asking you, do you share my level of shock and amazement in terms of how exactly something like this can actually happen? Classified information being freely shared on regular messaging apps?
Well, I can understand it. There's no explanation that can justify what happened. People say Signal is encrypted. Well, that's interesting, and maybe it is to a certain extent. But the U.S. government, over many years, has spent an incredible amount of money to develop a completely secure communication system. And senior officials who deal in the national security space should always use that when dealing with classified information, whether it's by written communication, whether it's by telephone, whether it's over video conferencing facilities. There are ways to do this secure in every case, and to do anything else has no explanation. So not only is it stunning that this was set up to begin with, one question to ask is, in the 2 months of the Trump administration, is this the first time they've done this? One thinks probably not. And given the number of cabinet level and equivalent officials on this chat, maybe 9 or 10, every one of whom has enormous responsibilities to protect classified information, up to and including Vice President Vance.
Yes.
Not one of them during the life of this group ever said anything like, why are we doing this on Signal?
Indeed. Also about the fact, before I come to the divisions within the group in terms of their thoughts about handling this entire issue. I want to quickly ask you about the fact that Democrats have said that this is very amateur-like handling of national security issues. What do you have to say to that, given the fact that America runs the most sophisticated intel apparatus in the world?
Well, as I say, I just can't understand it. I'm not trying to portray myself as more virtuous than any of the people on that group. I'm just saying it's inconceivable to me that anybody would do this. I mean, I can't get past that point.
Yes.
Why else have all this classified capability if you don't use it?
Indeed, absolutely. Which brings me to ask you that there are divisions within the Trump administration in terms of dealing with the threat or the issue regarding the Yemen Houthis, isn't it? Vice President Vance had a completely different view. How do you view that division of thought within the administration?
Well, I think there's an important point here that I deduce from this article, and I don't know any more about the group chat than anybody else who read the article, but it sounds as though this is the kind of discussion that you have before a presidential decision is made, not after the president has already made it, which he apparently had. So I think it could indicate a breakdown of the National Security Council process. It certainly reveals that Vice President Vance doesn't think very much of Europeans. Maybe he thinks differently of Indians. I don't know. I'll have to ask him that. But it is a pretty stunning break that you see within the administration, and now, of course, the whole world sees it.
That's a very valid point you made, sir, which is that such questions, if at all, when they are asked, they're asked prior to president approval, not after that. That's a very important point you made. Now, let me ask you about the impact this could have in terms of the credibility of Team Trump.
Well, I think it's a very serious problem. Again, to come back to the participants in the chat, all of whom are high-level officials who are involved in the White House or national security. Two of them, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and John Ratcliffe, the Director of the CIA, are in charge of keeping what's classified. They are the keepers of the secrets. And yet they participated in this signal chat, and as far as we can tell, never said anything about it. So if I'm a foreign intelligence official wondering about Gabbard or Ratcliffe, when they couldn't even see a clear breach of security when it was put right in front of their faces, what's going to happen if we share very sensitive intelligence from our point of view? I think it's a real problem for the United States because of what we see here.
How do you see this being addressed by the administration? Of course, there's a probe being announced, but in terms of the fallout, the impact, the questions it raises, how do you see this now being dealt with by the administration or by the president himself?
Well, the best we know so far is yesterday when the president was asked about it, he said he hadn't heard it. Well, maybe he hadn't heard it, but he's heard it now. He does not seem to have said anything during the remainder of the night on Monday. So now we'll see on Tuesday what happens. There is testimony this afternoon, long scheduled testimony before the House Intelligence Committee by the heads of the key intelligence agencies. It's an annual event, the annual Global Threat Assessment. So both Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe will be testifying. You can guarantee that this breach of security is going to be a major subject of questioning, certainly by the Democrats. And I don't think it's going to go away today. So I think the only real risk that any of these people have is if Trump is suffering from it personally. Otherwise, I don't think there'll be much of an investigation, and I don't think any of them will be forced to resign. Now, if Trump starts to get burned by this, then we could see something very different. So far, as of morning Washington time on Tuesday, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Again, a very relevant point you made, sir, that if it comes down to President Trump's credibility, probably then heads could roll, maybe more severe action could be taken. But in terms of the impact this has on national security, do you see that being compromised? Because you made a very valid point at the beginning of this interview, which is that this may not have been the first time something like this may have happened.
Right. Well, I think everybody's going to say if the Americans can't figure out how to conduct discussions, and you need sensitive discussions in times considering military action, when they have the capability to do it. This was not some exigent circumstance where people were out of touch and had to rely on less than satisfactory communication. My guess is most of these people were sitting in their offices where they could have used a classified internet connection. And then there would have been no possibility that the editor of the Atlantic could have been added to the chain, since if you're not, if you don't have a security clearance and you don't have access to the machinery that allows you to do this, there's simply no possibility anybody else can get in. So I think foreign governments are going to have a lot of concerns.
Finally, sir, how do you see this in terms of the perception and the questions that are time and again raised about cyber threats, maybe some Russian agencies hacking this or Chinese agencies hacking this? All these are threats that the American establishment only has raised in the past. Do you see those concerns now probably being more talked about and addressed given what has happened?
Well, they certainly should be. These threats are real. They're continuing. They're changing and growing worse all the time. You know, we don't know what foreign intelligence services may have already penetrated signal or gained access to the equipment, whether it was their computers or their cell phones or whatever these officials were using. We just have no idea how bad the compromise might be. And that's one reason why I think there really does need to be a serious investigation. I'm just very skeptical it's going to happen until Trump sees his own image and reputation being affected negatively.
All right, Ambassador Bolton, we leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to me on a story that has actually stunned the world and many would say shaken how American establishment, the security establishment, has been working so far. Thank you so much for that expert analysis. And on that note, viewers, we slip into a very short break. We come back with the latest unfolding in Bangladesh and Turkey. Stay with us.
I gotta be me. I gotta be me. What else can
This lunchtime, go all Crispin with Walkers.
I like making sure I've got all the right tools for the job. And now that I'm 50, that means looking after the life I've built, protecting my lot if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period, unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years for full cover. With Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler. Go online or talk to their friendly UK team in just one phone call.
Cover Today are the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period and no annoying trips to the doctors either. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Cover Today has given me genuine peace of mind. And now that's done, I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0808 143 4733 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
It feels good knowing that your future's in hand. Airflow can offer you a loan from £1,000 to £15,000. Get your conditional decision in minutes.
When you paint by feeling, you can come home to a blooming good day. Change starts here. Dulux.
This poor creature is a lion trapped in a cold, bare cage, alone. Terribly malnourished, just skin and bone. How can anyone simply leave a lion to rot and die? Right now, there are thousands of big cats suffering the same torment, languishing in cruel cages, neglected, abandoned, left to die. Will you help Four Paws free big cats suffering around the world right now? Please call 0800 035 7798, text RESCUE to 70544, or go online and give just £3 a month. Help Four Paws cut the bars and rescue these cats from their prisons. Help us take them to our sanctuaries where they can begin to recover. You'll be setting big cats free from pain and protecting them from cruelty, letting them see the blue sky above and breathe the clean, fresh air of freedom for the first time. But they are the lucky ones. Please call 0800 035 7798, text RESCUE to 70544 to give £3 a month via your mobile phone. Because if no one cuts the bars and frees these big cats, they will die trapped and alone.
Bangladesh on the edge of an economic disaster? Well, questions are coming in because there are reports that reveal a steep rise in poverty and food insecurity, echoing the financial turmoil seen in neighbouring Pakistan. A recent survey by the Bangladesh Institute of Development Studies has painted a rather grim picture, showing that poverty rates have skyrocketed from 8.6% to nearly 19%. Those numbers are on your screens, viewers. Alarming statistics. National poverty rate has climbed to 23.1%. It's clear the situation is going from bad to worse. Food insecurity now affecting nearly half the population. And as the crisis deepens, the textile industry, the country's lifeline, is now crumbling under the weight of political instability. Last week, Ananta Jalil, a key player in the garment sector, has raised alarm bells, accusing the interim government of sabotaging the very engine of Bangladeshi economy. Millions are now out of work. The once thriving industry, responsible for 84% of foreign earnings, is on the edge of collapse. Bangladeshi garment industry accounts for 12% of the global garment supply chain. And that tells you what's the writing on the wall. If the interim government doesn't step in, the country's economic fate could be sealed. That's how significant this disaster could be. Let's get in Zia Hassan, who's an economist, joining me to talk more about the impact of what all turmoil the government and the country has been going through. Mr. Hassan, the numbers are shocking and also indicative of the fact that the turmoil, the revolution, all that was 8 months back. The country is not moving forward. It seems to be going back.
Thank you. Yeah. So I had a smirk in my face when I was looking at the data that you projected. So the first data that you projected was regarding the poverty. Here in the screenshot, I saw that the poverty rose from 8-point-something% to 26% from 2022. But the real data, quoting from exactly the BIDS report, that actually it increased, yes, but not 24.73% to 26.43%, not 8.4% to 26% that you have shown. So that is a blatant lie. Secondly, RMG export.
No, it says 8.6% to 18.8%. That's what it says.
No, if you can bring back, so you see, you said it was 8.6%
to 18.87%.
No, the correct data is from that same report. The correct data is from 2022 to 2024. The poverty rose. Yes, it has risen, and I'm not denying that. From 24.73% to 26.40%.
Okay.
That makes a big difference between what you have stated in this picture. So let me go back to the garment sector. The garment sector in last 7 months has...
No, don't address the garment sector first.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you, fine, you may contest the numbers. The numbers are as per the source.
I'm not contesting because you have misrepresented the number.
I'm not misrepresenting, sir. It is from a particular report. Even if I go by what you are saying, poverty rate has worsened, hasn't it?
Absolutely, 24-point-something% to 26-point-something%.
Right.
That is definitely a matter of concern, but it is not like a doomsday scenario that you are projecting. That is my point.
Okay. There is a let's pull up the 23.11% statistic. Let's put that. Even if you say that it is not what it is right now, my question to you is, Mohammad Yunus's interim government, it needs to work towards ensuring that people's aspirations and their needs are addressed, right?
Yeah. So
how do you think that will happen?
Yeah. So look, Bangladesh has, after the collapse of Sheikh Hasina, has taken over an absolutely broken economy. And the key factor that the government had to address was the inflation. The inflation, for first time in last 20 years, it rose to something like 14%. The government had adopted a contractory monetary policy. And through the contractory monetary policy, economy is being shrinked. That is not something that happened automatically. That was by design, because we had no other way, because the way Sheikh Hasina's regime, supported by India, had adopted a funny something called 9-to-6 policy. When the inflation was 14%, the deposit rate was 6%. And the oligarchs were given the money at 9%, and they created some artificial illusion of growth. So Dr. Yunus's government and Dr. Hassanish Mansour, who is a very competent leader, they adopted a contractory monetary policy. And by that, actually, credit growth has become 7.some%. We are very concerned about it. The credit growth has gone down, but that is actually by design.
Okay. I gave you all the time to speak. What I heard, of course, was India 3 times, but fair enough. I will let that pass. The numbers that I started this discussion with is not something that I have cooked up. This is from the Dhaka Tribune, and I am going to ensure that you get that link. This is from the Dhaka Tribune, where the numbers have been quoted.
I don't quote Dhaka Tribune. I quote Bangladesh Bank and the BIDS
which is
report.
the BBS data, which is saying 8.6 to 18.87%. Okay. But the fact is, if it was not 8%, then it was not as good. That's the only thing. Had it been 8.6%, it's single digit.
No,
that means it's very good.
Between
but again, as I said, it is from Dhaka Tribune, sir. These are not my numbers. Your answer only I heard India, India, India again, and of course Sheikh Hasina 3 times. So between 3 times of Sheikh Hasina and 3 times of India, that's all I heard. Nothing else. But I have one more question. No, I'm going to give you all the time. I'm going to give you all the time, Mr. Hassan, and I know a fair amount of economics as well, but this is not a debate about economics. The other question I'm going to ask you is, what is your mantra to fix the Bangladeshi garment industry?
Garment industry?
Unless you are debating that also, that the garment industry is not in doldrums.
Oh my God, you don't know how hard I'm coming. Bangladeshi garment industry, please go, don't check up Dhaka Tribune. It is a Awami League supported
I hope you're not going to say that the garment industry is doing very well. I hope you're not planning to say that the garment industry is doing very well. If you are going to say that the garment industry is doing very well, then let's have a different discussion about the weather baby.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
So,
thank you so much, Mr. Hassan, for joining me today. If we are going to debate like this, I don't think it's helping either the viewers of your... Either they are helping the viewers or you putting out your data. Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. I'm going to come back to you at another time, maybe on another issue, hopefully when we'll have some clarity on how we want to address it, viewers. The fact of the matter is that just a couple of years ago, Bangladesh had one of the highest growth rates in the world. In fact, its per capita income was far higher, was very much in line with some of the fastest growing South Asian countries. It beat Pakistan. It was much higher than Pakistan. Fast forward 2 years, another democratically elected prime minister being ousted, and Bangladesh is already following in the footsteps of failed state, which is Pakistan. From the turmoil on the streets to the reeling garment industry, the stories of Dhaka and Islamabad, unfortunately, are looking eerily similar with each passing day. Shifting focus now to the latest in Turkey, where Ekrem Imamoglu, a name that rings like a bell in Turkey's political arena, is jailed for unimaginable accusations. This mayor has become the thorn in Erdogan's side, turning the heat up in a political showdown that's shaking the very foundations of Turkey's democracy. With millions rallying behind him, the battle is increasingly becoming a fight for the soul of Turkey. But will the winds of change be enough to topple this political giant, or is this just another storm in a teacup? This report tells you.
İstanbul'daki bir yolsuzluk operasyonu bahane edilerek sokaklarımızın karıştırılmak istendiğine şahit oluyoruz.
In the heart of Turkey's stormy political landscape stands a man who dares to challenge the might of President Erdogan. Ekrem Imamoglu, the 54-year-old mayor of Istanbul, has gone from political underdog to a national symbol of resistance. But now, as he faces charges of corruption and terrorism, his future remains uncertain. Imamoglu's rise to power began in 2019, when he pulled off a stunning victory in Istanbul's mayoral race, defeating Erdogan's ruling AKP in a bitter contest. After his first win was annulled, Imamoglu came back even stronger, sweeping to victory once more and ending a 25-year conservative grip on the city. His success marked a turning point in Turkey's politics, showing that change was possible even in Erdogan's shadow. His victory in Istanbul was not just about one election, it was a statement that the political status quo could be challenged. But his political fortunes took a sharp turn on the 19th of March. Arrested on charges ranging from bribery to embezzlement, Imamoglu was thrown into pre-trial detention. The allegations, termed wild accusations by his supporters, have sparked a firestorm of protests. His arrest, critics say, is part of a broader crackdown on opposition figures, an attempt to eliminate Erdogan's most formidable rival. With his arrest fueling an ever-growing wave of opposition protests, Imamoglu remains at the center of a political storm that's threatening to engulf the nation. As the fight for democracy intensifies, one question remains. Will Turkey's turbulent political tides finally change course, or is this just the calm before a bigger storm? Arjun Samar Mahindran for NDTV World.
Viewers, the bottom line is that the jailed opposition leader is now the opposition's official presidential candidate. For 2 decades, Erdogan has reshaped Turkey to secure his rule. But Imamoglu's rise is a dark and a stark reminder that even the longest reigns can crumble. Erdogan's attempts to silence his rival only fuels the flames of unrest. As the future of Turkey hangs by a thread, the battle between autocracy and democracy is now intensifying. This might very well be the beginning of the end for Erdogan's 22-year-long reign and his big empire. And with that, we wrap things up on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent
We know that living with diabetes can make daily life a challenge, and we're here to help.
I felt very low with the diagnosis and very lonely as well, and embarrassed.
I think people don't necessarily realise the impact that being diabetic can have on you, and the amount of extra decisions you have to make a day through carb counting every single thing you eat.
If you're struggling with the everyday challenges diabetes can bring, become a Diabetes UK member today. Receive this informative welcome pack and Balance magazine.
Balance magazine has been very good in giving me tips to manage my diabetes on a day-to-day basis.
One of the things I was recommended to do was exercise. What motivated me was my love of dance, and I got that back.
Join a community that really understands. Call 0800 035 7605 or go online to become a member for just £3 a month.
At Vodafone, save £792 with the Google Pixel 9. Plus, with Circle to Search, you can instantly search anything on your phone without switching apps, only on Android. Hurry, deal ends 17th of April. Go online or in-store today. Vodafone.
If your garage looks like this, you need Tougher Man. A leading supplier of shelving for your home or business. Assembly is quick, easy and boltless. Buy 1 bay from just $59.99, or you can get 3 bays from only $119.99, saving you nearly £60. Plus, you get a 5-year Storelex steel guarantee. Order now at tougherman.co.uk.
Who do I trust for business insurance?
If you need business insurance, join nearly 1 million customers who trust...
At AJ Bell, we're all about making investing easy. Open an award-winning ISA today in under 15 minutes. AJ Bell. Feel good investing.
What are you so happy about?
I've just made a claim. We could be owed thousands.
My claim group?
Yeah, the cars we bought on finance, well, the lenders could have charged hidden commissions. It's dead simple to claim.
Hey, I had had 2 cars before we met.
Go to My Claim Group. You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from cars you bought on finance since 2007, even if you can't remember the details.
Done.
Simple, eh?
Go to My Claim Group now.
Claims made simple.
Kerala's drug crisis remains a major concern. The state launches a concerted drive against drugs after 588 minors reportedly sought rehab in just the first 2 months of this year. Drug cases in the state are 3 times that of Punjab in 2024. In Bengaluru, DRI strongly objects to the Ranya Rao's bail plea, tells the court it followed all proper procedures in her arrest and has sufficient evidence. Ranya Rao purchased Glol through Hawala money. First up this evening to that important battle against drugs in Kerala after a worrying surge in addiction to narcotic and psychotropic substances in the state. The state has roped in students, police, cinema personalities and influencers from all walks of life to renew its campaign against drugs. 588 minors have sought de-addiction in the state in just the first 2 months of 2025. As soon as that data was tabled in the State Assembly, there was an immediate reaction and emphasis on the need for sustained action. The Union Home Ministry, remember, had flagged that in 2024, Kerala has flagged 3 times the number of cases that were registered in Punjab under the Narcotics Act. It could be because of heightened reporting, but there were 27,700 cases that were booked last year in Kerala. Uma Sudhir has the details.
Union Home Ministry put out these figures for 2024 saying that Kerala has reported as many as 25,701 NDPS cases in the year. As compared to a Punjab, for instance, it has reported 9,025, which means more than 3 times the number being reported in a Punjab. In fact, Kerala also reported the maximum number of drug-related arrests. This has become a huge matter of concern, and that's the reason why the Kerala Chief Minister has now said that there will be an all-out war on drugs. All stakeholders involved, even lesser, as in lower primary school students, are going to be involved in this, because the Assembly was informed that as many as 588 minors, all under the age of 18 years, had in fact sought de-addiction services just in the months of January and February in 2025. What the Chief Minister has said is that all stakeholders will be involved. There will be increased inspections on not just hostels, all educational institutions, also public facilities like parks, malls, beaches, theatres, all those areas where tourists are going to be frequenting. And he has said that all stakeholders will come together, coordinate efforts with other states as well. Bengaluru, in fact, happens to be one of the main transit routes for the drugs to come to Kerala. So all these efforts are being taken because what I must point out is that Kerala wants to be obviously continue to be known as God's own country, and the increasing number of violence that has been related to people who are under the influence of drugs, especially synthetic drugs, whose usage is said to have increased among the youth, that has become a huge matter of concern. In fact, a 1-month drive was conducted called Operation D-Hunt, as part of which they, just in the month of March and February, they were able to increase the number of cases, arrests as well, to as much as 7,500 within 1 month. A number of cases that were registered also going up by several thousands as well, and all that on the basis of intelligence, actionable intelligence that was in fact given through the control rooms. People came up and gathered and shared that kind of information with the Narcotics Control Bureau, because of which this kind of an operation was possible.
Right, that's an important issue we'll keep a focus on. But now to our special focus this evening. Whether it's controversial YouTuber Saukku Shankar in Chennai or comedian Kunal Kamra in Mumbai, violent reactions and vandalism to controversial comments seem to have become an intimidating curb on freedom of expression. On Monday in Chennai, an unidentified group dressed like conservancy workers dumped garbage and sewerage into YouTuber Saukku Shankar's home. They also threatened, as you see in that video on your screens, the YouTuber's mother. All of this in reaction to alleged comments made by the YouTuber on alcoholism amongst sanitary workers. This after he had accused the state Congress president of a scam involving sanitary workers. Shankar has even alleged that the Chennai Commissioner of Police was involved in that attack on his house, after which his case has been transferred to the CBCID. This incident comes alongside the case of a mob which ransacked the premises where comedian Kunal Kamra had performed his controversial show, ripping into political leaders and businessmen in Mumbai. The BMC continued its demolition of illegal structures in that premises, and Kamra himself has sought time to appear before the Mumbai police and has received several strong comments against him from the top of the political class in the state. It's an issue raised several times, one that's of deep concern. Joining me this evening, Lakshmi Ramachandran of the Tamil Nadu Congress, Sumant Raman from Chennai, who observes Tamil Nadu's politics and society very closely, Shaina NC of the Shiv Sena, and noted YouTuber M. Kashif. Thanks to all of you for joining us. My first question to you, opening one to you, Sumant Raman. Mob realities are the same, whether it is in Mumbai or Chennai. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it cuts across political parties too. I mean, just like the BJP controls the narrative on national media, the DMK controls the narrative on in Tamil Nadu. And very importantly, Saukh Shankar has been one of the very few people who has been taking on the state government. So this is not the first time that Saukh Shankar is facing this kind of an issue, though this is the first time that his house itself has been attacked. The point really is the intolerance cuts across political parties. This is not about whether it is BJP, Shiv Sena, Congress, DMK, across political parties. There is a complete intolerance of criticism. And I think that the only way that we can fix this is through some kind of independent institutions that can function without fear of the ruling government. I know it's a very far-fetched thing to say, Veera, but I think that there's no other solution. Look, this particular case, or at least in the Kunal Kamra case, at least for appearances, some 11 people were arrested, and though they got bail and all that, they were produced before a magistrate. Something was done, FIR was registered. In this Saukh Shankar case, until a few hours ago, to the best of my knowledge, there has been no FIR. There is a CSR. All these people are on camera. Some of them, none of them have even made an attempt to hide, their faces. And there is a conversation today that has been released where...
Lakshmi, I will speak to Shaina. I will pose questions to Shaina and Kashif, and we will discuss the Kunal Kamra case. But first, in this Saukh Shankar case, it's perhaps a reality that the political parties, irrespective of which side of the political spectrum are, rarely condemn strongly such action, and such mob action would not be possible without political support.
Good evening. Drawing parallels between what happened in Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu is incorrect, is what I would say. In Maharashtra, including the chief minister, nobody has condemned what happened. The chief minister has in fact justified. He said that the freedom of speech comes with its limits, with its own limits. In Tamil Nadu, everybody has condemned the attack, especially Congress leaders. I just want to read out a few lines from the statement of the All India Congress Committee in charge for Tamil Nadu, Mr. Girish Chodankar. He said in his tweet, "The appalling and ghastly attack that occurred at the home of YouTuber Saukh Shankar in Chennai is highly condemnable. Reports indicate that the assailants resorted to throwing human excrement and dumping sewage in a blatant act of aggression." He's gone on to say, "Such acts of violence are unacceptable in today's society, especially in a country that prides itself on its democratic foundations and the freedom of speech enshrined in the Constitution." He has demanded that law enforcement agencies conduct a thorough and impartial investigation on a war footing, and he has welcomed the fact that the case has been transferred to
one minute. I have to make a point.
Investigation.
I'm
sorry, Suman, make it.
Saukh Shankar has categorically accused the state Congress chief of being behind the attack. Categorically, on camera, on video, he has categorically said, he has made an accusation that the state Congress president was behind the attack. Second, very importantly, nobody from the state Congress, I saw Karti Chidambaram had put out a post and so on, but the state Congress president has not in explicit terms. In fact, there were two of the attackers who had
Right.
social
Lakshmi,
media
respond.
pages had photographs with the state Congress president.
I want to respond. I think he has not seen the interview of the state Congress president. He has condemned the act of violence that happened. You please go and check his interview today given to ANI, where he has condemned the act.
Okay.
And anybody can
Why has he not
accuse
sued
anybody
Sauk
of
Shankar for
such act,
defamation?
unless there is evidence. That is
No,
why we
is
have demanded investigation. The CBI
I will get to the two of you. I will get to the two of you and question whether condemnation alone is enough. Is that enough to as deterrence from ensuring an incident like this doesn't happen again? I'll get last to Shaina, but before that, Kashif, you've heard the case of Sauk Shankar in Chennai. You've seen what has happened to Kunal Kamra in Mumbai. Do you believe that simple condemnation is enough, or do YouTubers have to constantly have the fear of mob reactions apart from state reaction?
First of all, I would like to say that we have to be very neutral when something happens, such kind of incident happens. So when it comes to freedom of speech, then we have to build a society where everyone can speak, everyone can do what they want. We live in a society where people really love comedy. And we have seen Kapil Sharma, we have seen so many comedians and who mimics people, who just make fun of people, and that's the way they do their comedy. But at the same time, as I said, that we have to be neutral. You should not cross the line. You should understand the feelings of others. But at the same time, do such people come when a girl is raped? Do they vandalize property? Do they ransack? Do they do such kind of things? No, they do not protest when something very heinous has been done. But they come in support of their political leaders. Their sentiments get hurt just because they have a simple agenda which they follow. Right. As a society, we need to understand the freedom of speech, but at the same time, we need to respect the feelings of people.
Shaina, go ahead.
So for the outset, I would like to say that freedom of speech, one has heard repeatedly, does not mean that you have the freedom for vulgarity. Humor is the essence of life, and all of us know that, yes, wit is a part of our society and part of the viewpoint of many people who have had opinions, contrarian opinions. But does humor mean humiliation? Does humor mean condemning and condescending comments on somebody who has an aspirational story of an auto rickshaw driver becoming the most popular chief minister and deputy chief minister? Does humor mean that you can call somebody a traitor? Does humor mean that you can just go to any extent under the garb of renting a comedian who chooses to be a puppet and a stooge to certain political parties under the guise of comedy? I'd like to say absolutely not. The job of a comedian is not to be a political activist under the garb of taking on certain parties who have an agenda and a diversionary tactic. And yes,
but
please,
China, the question is the reaction of vandalism to it.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Is vandalism and force the reaction because there is legal recourse?
I am coming to that. For every action, you will have a reaction. Now, if you are condescending and obnoxious towards my leader, as a political activist or as a political karyakarta, there is going to be a backlash. Not that one is saying that that's the right approach. 12 of our Shiv Sainiks have been arrested for taking law into their hands. So nobody is suggesting that you must take law into your hands. But if you cannot have that basic courtesy to respect our leadership or respect our viewpoint and actually espouse the cause of the people who actually threw away the ideology of Hindu Hriday Samrat Adarnya Balasaheb Thackeray and who are actually sitting in Sonia Gandhi's lap, you have chosen to be mum on that and only have a comment on a popular mass leader who has risen from the ranks. That is not acceptable.
Kashif, respond.
So please understand that there are boundaries, there are emotions, and those emotions have to be dealt with both ways, right? You can't just say that
Kashif,
why the
respond.
backlash? There was something you did where you propped to be a puppet and where you sold yourself as a comedian as if it was a rented act.
I think you
And this
cannot
is not
defend
the first
Kashif
time.
will respond.
You call
I
the
think-
Supreme Court a supreme joke.
Kashif, go ahead.
You have jokes
I
of
think you
Arnab
cannot defend
Goswami
someone.
on.
You cannot defend violence while saying that every action is having a reaction.
No,
So
I'm not
that's not a
justifying it, but
justifiable
I'm saying that
comment. That's
action
not a
was
justifiable
taken.
comment. You should
12 people
you
were
should have the
arrested,
place
right?
of dissent. You will have to face the dissent, and you have to accept that in a positive way. We have seen so many Bollywood actors and actresses. They have been mimicked. They have been made fun of, but they never react in that way. For example, if Salman Khan fans come in support of Salman Khan and just started vandalizing public property and saying we are very offended whatever people have done, whatever comedians have done. So we will not have proper comedy. We will lose the comedians because
By
we are
calling
just
somebody
curbing
a
them.
traitor? You're
You know, the
calling
question of
somebody a
who is
traitor?
But that doesn't mean you vandalize property.
A
You
mass
just
leader who
start
is your
threatening
leader
someone's
who
mother.
has delivered on ground.
Said exactly the same thing.
Sumant
There is a
Raman, weigh
video
in
of
on this.
Mr.
Sumant
No, no,
Raman,
one
weigh in on
second.
this.
There is a video of Mr. Ajit Pawar saying the same thing. Did they go and vandalize Mr. Ajit Pawar's office? I mean, I don't understand. And the
China.
second part is, who gives them the authority, whether it is BJP or Congress or anybody else, to take the law into their own hands, to say that, we think that it is bad. I mean, who has given the authority? That is the problem. The problem is when you are in power, the government looks the other way when vandalism happens by the ruling party. End of story.
So in
Lakshmi,
2.5
Lakshmi,
years,
the point
sir,
is...
2.5 years, can I make a limited point? Just 30
Yes,
seconds,
please go
not
ahead.
even.
Please go ahead.
In 2.5 years, when Eknath Shinde was the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, you have not had one arrest, one combative measure vis-a-vis any criticism. We have welcomed criticism. We have welcomed journalists who have contrarian opinions, legitimate voices of dissent, and there has been no case. If you take contrary to cut to maybe the Ubata Sena, they arrested so many people. Nobody seemed to have a problem then. They arrested people for calling their leaders penguin, etc., etc. And that was the norm.
Okay.
I'm not comparing, but do understand even Telangana government, which where you've had journalists being arrested, you have never seen any of this with us. So here, if you are
point
going
taken,
to use
China, point taken. I
vulgarity
don't
as
think
a
it's restricted
comedy,
to
I
one
think that's
state
not fair.
or one government. The larger issue here is, Lakshmi, the point that's being raised, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kashif and Sumant Raman, is that a YouTuber is a soft, easy target. If the same thing had been done, if the same accusations like what Savukri Shankar had made has been made by a big media house, the Congress or any other political party would find it difficult to take it back, whether it's the DMK or whether it's the Shiv Sena. The YouTuber becomes a soft target. Lakshmi.
Yeah, I mean, whoever targeted him has to, the investigation has to reveal who targeted him. His accusation is that, a certain person was behind it. I mean, that anybody can accuse anybody else, but it's only the investigation that will reveal who the persons behind the attack were.
No, but this is a person, Lakshmi, who had a Gundas case that was filed against him. There were several cases. Finally, he had to be released by the Supreme Court. Nobody spoke up in Tamil Nadu. Nobody spoke up in Tamil Nadu because two wrongs don't make a right, right?
I mean, there were a lot of people who spoke up. Whenever wrong cases are filed against journalists who have, criticized the government, we've always spoken up.
Okay, so you say, Sumant?
No, Veera, I think that, look, there is no distinction between political parties. I remember when UPA was in power, somebody in Pondicherry put out a tweet, it was then Twitter, saying that Mr. Karti Chidambaram, he alleged that he was corrupt.
Okay, Sumant's line seems to have been frozen. I'm not curbing Sumant's freedom of speech. The internet issue is curbing that. But Kashif, you've heard all that's been said. Do you believe that the world will become easier for YouTubers to express their opinion freely and fiercely? Or do you believe that the entire system, including the social reaction to some comments, in terms of what is right, what is wrong, what is acceptable, what is not, is only getting more rigid and more enforced by force?
First of all, I would like to make very clear to my fellow panelists that I'm not here to defend Kunal Kamra or somebody else. I'm an educator. I teach my students that we need to respect law. We need to draw lines. We need to respect people's sentiments. So I have to be very neutral. And in that context, I'm saying whatever has been done, it promotes hooliganism. And it is a very violent act, and that should be condemnable. You cannot there should be a way of protest. You can file case against such people, such comedians, such YouTubers. That's fine. That's totally fine. If your sentiments get hurt, so it's acceptable. Okay. But when you are promoting violence, when you are doing such acts, so that comes under the right of speech. That comes under the freedom of speech, in fact. So that's why I'm saying that when we say that, okay, there is a reaction of every action, then somewhere we are just promoting, we are just defending their whatever they have done, their crime. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Shaina, isn't it the responsibility of the parties in power, whether it is the DMK or Shiv Sena, and throw the party affiliations aside for the moment, to ensure that such mob reactions aren't justified and condemned so severely that it doesn't happen the next time?
I do agree, but I would also say at the same time that we talk about, respecting each other, then respect each other's emotion too and feelings. You cannot, in a political space, come out and say that my leader is a traitor and expect me to be silent on it when that is factually wrong and it's untrue. And it's maneuvered by a political agenda which is apparent to one and all. And this is the same Kamra, don't forget, who even talked about the Supreme Court being a supreme joke, talked about BJP's flag on the Supreme Court, spoke about Mr. Chandrachud, Justice Chandrachud, Venugopalji. The list is endless, Arnab Goswami, and there are multiples. So I think that, the reference to context is also imperative, because when you have somebody like this coming out and mocking and making an elitist, classist comment to as if say that, a rickshaw wala who has a beard and a dadi and becomes the chief minister, what is wrong with that? Please understand. This is aspirational India, and you hurt my sentiments too. So that is something that needs to be taken very seriously under the garb of freedom of expression.
Go ahead,
it
30
can't be
seconds to you,
vulgarity
Sumant, and then I'll give the last 30 seconds to Lakshmi. Go ahead, Sumant.
I think what I would suggest is we can go around and get a list from all the political parties asking what they will be offended by and what they will not be offended by, and when they will be offended by it. And then we can put it on as a public document so that people will know that A will be offended by this, but B will be offended by something else. What absurdity is this? Where is the rule of law? If we are going to say, you get offended, you have a right to get offended. The right way to approach this is to go to court. Instead of that, saying that we will vandalize things or we will throw muck into people's houses, that is completely unacceptable.
Like Lakshmi, one party doesn't like X, the other party doesn't like Y. Where does that leave Z?
No, I stand by what the Congress party, the AICC in charge for Tamil Nadu has said, which is we condemn this act of violence. At the same time, journalists and YouTubers, when they comment on, women and sanitation workers, they have to be careful. The sentiments of these people are also important. Frivolous comments, derogatory comments should be avoided. Of course, they have all the rights to criticize people in power, and we don't deny that right at all.
All right. Okay. You don't deny that right, but it's not perhaps the right for any of us to deny or give. It's up to the courts of law to decide what can be accepted, what's not. And I think the core question is of vandalism and the use of mob force, and not state machinery or law, which is another issue, but the use of mob force to thwart freedom of expression. We'll keep a close focus on that issue, but that's all we have time for on the Southern View this evening. News and updates continue right here on NDTV. Thanks for watching.
With retirement round the corner, I want to spend more time with my family and less time worrying about the numbers. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money could help with funeral costs, or even as a gift for the grandkids. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
You got them all right, that's amazing.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 977 5808 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
Quidco gives you cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco. Sign up and start saving today. Visit quidco.com.
I'll fix him, love. Poor pet. Just shows you never know what's going to happen. Which reminds me, I need to protect the life we've built. That's why I'm looking into Smart Family Life Insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote, please.
OK. You can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000, depending on your age. If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought. And it could help my husband with the mortgage.
Just like families, not all life insurance is the same. That's why we offer the Smart Family Guarantee.
That's good to know.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cash back on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you'll also get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0800 977 5753 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
At Direct Line, we know that for multi-property landlords, sometimes the tiniest of things can turn into way bigger problems. From niggly contract issues to keeping up with ever-changing legislation. That's why Direct Line's landlord insurance offers a 24/7 legal helpline as standard. Because a call with someone could help to make the hairiest of problems feel that little bit smoother. Search Direct Line Landlord Insurance. We're on it.
Wouldn't life be so much easier if you could control your blinds at the touch of a button? With Ultra Smart Blinds from Appeal, there's no chains, cords or wiring because these stylish blinds are driven by a rechargeable power pack. New Ultra Smart Blinds from Appeal, the intelligent solution for home shading.
We know that water is a sacred gift. It gives life, gives health and purifies. That's why it's shocking that so many families don't have the basics that we take for granted, like clean water and soap. This means they're much more likely to get deadly diseases like diarrhea and cholera. And it's often their kids that suffer the most. Today, over 800 children will die from dirty water, no proper toilet, or just because they can't wash their hands. This Ramadan, please donate your zakat and sadaqah to provide the gift of clean water. To donate, please search Water Aid Zakat. Your donation can help buy pipes and taps for clean water, bricks and cement for washing stations, and of course, soap. This Ramadan, please donate your zakat and sadaqah to give the gift of clean water to those families that need it most. To donate, please search Water Aid Zakat. Thank you.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.